Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never practice nunchucks in a crowded room. Never eat chole before a road trip. Always take your shirt off before you iron it. Don't take a call near a swimming pool. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Cut the Clutter is taking us to Andhra Pradesh today, and we are talking specifically about the Polavaram project. Now, there are multiple reasons, not the least of which is that Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu and his son Nara Lokesh are right now in Davos seeking investments again for their state. That is something that I had seen them do there. When he was in power the last time, when Chandrababu Naidu was in power the last time, then he had put up hoardings all over the promenade in Davos because he was seeking funds and investments for Amravati, which was his dream project. Then we know that for 5 years, the project had more or less been cancelled. It had gone into wilderness. He's trying to revive it. But his other big priority is also to finish the Polavaram project now. Polavaram would be, when completed, would be among the largest hydroelectric projects, but it's a bit of a misnomer to call it hydroelectric because the electric part of the project is quite small at 960 megawatts. That's simply because I think while water is available, gradient is not available. Sufficient gradient is not available because the more gradient you have, the more power you can produce. However, for irrigation, for drinking water, this is a project of enormous importance. It's going to directly irrigate 7.20 lakh acres or 2.9 lakh hectares of land. It's also going to stabilize another 23.5, that is a little over 3 times as much land. Stabilization means these are areas which have some irrigation, which are not totally dry, but additional water from this project will give them surety that even in times of drought, they will have water. So this agriculture will also then become that much richer. Andhra Pradesh, as we know, is largely an agrarian state and a very rich agrarian state with very fertile soil and very efficient farmers. Now, what has happened with this project and why are we talking about it today? This project has been moribund for a long time. This is an unfortunate project. It was imagined in 1941, as far back as that. In fact, it was the British who had imagined the larger idea of linking the Godavari and Krishna rivers in south of India because they wanted to use it for navigation. Then Dr. K.L. Rao, who was an engineer, a well-known engineer and also India's irrigation minister, in 1972 had proposed an interlinking of Godavari and Krishna rivers, the 2 major rivers that go through Andhra Pradesh. But that was all lying in a limbo. This project, however, which has elements of the Krishna Godavari interlinking, this project came into being in 2004-05. That is when Congress party's Y.S. Shekhar was in power. He was visionary. He was quite energetic. He also had the ability to raise funds. So that's when this project was planned. When it was planned, it was called Indra Sagar Dam, obviously because the Congress was in power and Congress was dominant, by far the most dominant party nationally. Its only competition then used to be from Telugu Desam party. However, this did not last long. As you know, Y.S. Rajshekhar Reddy died in that unfortunate helicopter crash, and then Andhra went into instability, which saw a succession of weak Congress chief ministers and finally the division of the state and the creation of Telangana. This project got caught up in all of that and worse. So what happened? As a result of all this, the first time contracts were given out for this project were in 2013. That's when Kiran Kumar Reddy was one of these weak Congress party chief ministers. He, by the way, subsequently joined the BJP. This was still undivided Andhra, and it was a state project. Because it was a state project, state government had to find the money to implement it, and obviously a project of that size, although when it was planned, it was 10,151 crore project, but in 2004-05, 10,151 crore was a lot of money. State government was finding it inadequate, its resources inadequate, but he started it and he gave the contract to a consortium including Transtroy, which is a Russian origin infrastructure, heavy infrastructure building company. But he also had, that consortium also had as its partners and at its core, contractors from Andhra Pradesh. Now, as we tell you this story, you will see the names of many Andhra Pradesh contractors. Andhra Pradesh has specialized in producing these really successful mega contractors, mega infrastructure builders and contractors. Sometimes I've called them entrepreneurs. So in today's discussion, you will see Transtroy and its partners who are from Andhra Pradesh, then Navayuga, and then Megha Engineering as well. These names will go in and out. Then what happens? 2013, this contract is given. Some little work is done. Detailed project reports begin to be prepared. Protests start. Adjoining states start saying we'll have problems. Our people will also get displaced. What will be our share of the water, etc., etc. So that tamasha starts. By which time the bigger tamasha is going on in Andhra Pradesh as the Telangana movement picks up. By 2014, the state has got divided, and now this project has fallen in the share of, or in the lap of, or on the shoulders of Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh by this time has lost its economic engine, which is Hyderabad. So Andhra Pradesh doesn't have the money to implement the project. However, as part of the division of the state, Andhra Pradesh has been given a promise that this will no longer be a state project. This will be a project of national importance, which means central government will pay for this project. Then work starts on the project. Chandrababu Naidu becomes the first chief minister of the new state of Andhra Pradesh. He gives out the contracts to Navyuga Constructions, who start the work. Quite a bit of the work takes place. How much of that work was, what exactly that work means, I will soon have Moushumi Das Gupta, our deputy editor, join in to explain, because she's been tracking this story very closely. And the reason we are revisiting this story, or we are coming to this story in CTC today, is also a story that she's done today, saying that the center has now started to release money for reviving this project. 2,700 crores, in fact 2,740 crores have already been released. There is a new financing formula for this. Earlier, even after it became a central project, the state government had to spend the money and then ask the center for reimbursement. And once it got the reimbursement, it had to spend more money, but that has a dual problem. One, state governments these days don't have any money of their own anyway. Second, the previous government, like most state governments now, was a distributive government. Everything was being given away. So the state had very little money left. And you know how difficult it is to get your reimbursements from any government, even between two governments, between state and central government. Now that formula has been reversed. That is what Moushmi's story today tells us. Now the center gives money in advance to the state government. Remember, TDP is now an essential partner of the NDA, and without TDP's 16 MPs, Mr. Modi's coalition will be very unstable. It will not fall, but it will be very unstable. So there is also coalition leverage. His demand for a special status for Andhra has not been met, because that's also a demand that Bihar has been making, because they had also lost Jharkhand, their mineral-rich region. So that's a slippery slope. However, Mr. Modi and his government are compensating Andhra by changing the formula for this project, besides providing more money for Amravati and also creating more credit streams for the state. In fact, last year's budget, 15,000 crores were provided in the budget, like an arrangement for the state to spend. Now, this money now will come from the state, from the center to the state. When the state has spent 75% of it, just 75%, not all of it, they can go back to the center and say, look, we've spent 75%, so give us the next tranche of the money. And that's how the next tranche will come. The other consequence of these delays has been that the project has now been divided into two phases. It was going to be one dam built to the height of 45.72 meters, a large, long dam. Moushumi will tell you the length, 45.72 meters height, which would have stored 194.6 thousand million cubic feet of water. Right now, it has been divided into two phases. So in the first phase, only 41.5 meters will be built, storing 120,000 million cubic feet of water. So that's much less. The important thing is this will submerge much less area. And because it submerges much less area, people displaced will be that much fewer, because one of the major costs in today's hydroelectric projects or hydel projects is displacement, resettlement and rehabilitation, and also compensation for the land that is submerged or land that is acquired for the project. That's how this project has been broken into two. Meanwhile, what's been happening, the project cost that was meant to be 10,151, it was renegotiated by the YSRCP government with the central government, Modi government, by 2023, and it was decided that the earlier cost was based on the 2004-5 cost levels. Now inflation had gone up, costs had gone up, so the cost of the project would now be 47,725 crores. At this point, it looks like the cost of the completed project will become about 56,000 crores, and phase 1 will be completed only between July and December 2027. That is the kind of delay that's taken place. Now, what exactly has been happening with the project so far? Now, we told you that the construction started in 2013. So about 25,000 crores have already been spent on the project. It's yielded very little. It's yielded a little bit that I'll tell you about. But 25,000 crores have been spent, which means 74% of the budget for the project has now been spent, whereas less than 50% of the work has been carried out. So the difference between 50% of the work and 74% of the budget being spent, that is the additional cost of the project. That's why I said what is 47,000 will become 55,000 and maybe even more. In the process, everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong, because what happens if you start constructing a building and leave it midway through? What will happen? Besides the fact that squatters will come in, but squatters are the least of the problems. Elements will come in, rain will come, floods will come. In this case, because the ground was being readied, topography was being readied for building a dam, 2 coffer dams had been built. What coffer dams were, where they were, Moushumi will tell you. But basically, this means you build light dams because they are not storing any water. These are just diversionary dams to take water away in a different direction. Otherwise, if the water remains in the river, how will you build a dam? So to create the dry ground for building a dam for engineers, you create coffer dams that go along the rivers to divert flow on this side and divert flow on that side, and later they meet again together to join the main body of the river. These coffer dams, meanwhile, have leaked because gaps between these were not filled between 2020-21. 2020 was a big flood in Godavari River, and that is something that Andhra government's white paper on Polavaram project has also talked about. When that water came in because of the flooding, the topography changed because the scouring of the surface took place. Scouring of the surface took place. गड्ढे हो गए उसके अंदर. The nature of the surface on which the dam was to be built, that changed. Now again, to refill it, you put more sand. When you put more sand in it, then the essential topography and physical character of the land on which the dam was to stand, that also changed. So that called for a change in specifications in the dam construction. And then something called diaphragm, which again Moushumi will explain to us. A diaphragm over which the dam had to be built. That had cost 442 crores because of this flooding and the inability of the coffer dams to stop the flood waters from coming into the dam site. This diaphragm was damaged, more or less destroyed. You can write it off, and chances are now that it will have to be rebuilt. That will cost nearly 1,000 crores. In the meantime, interest burden has been rising on the monies borrowed. In the meantime, R&R costs are going up because the same people will ask for more money now. And in the same time, thousands of TMC water has flown into the Bay of Bengal, because generally the flow of water in the Bay of Bengal from this point, from the Polavaram point, is about 2 to 3,000 million cubic feet. How much is a cubic foot? A cubic foot is precisely 28.3168. So you can say 28 liters of water. And this is measured in 1,000 million cubic feet. So that much water goes into the Bay of Bengal, unutilized by anybody. Polavaram is just 141 kilometers from the point where the river meets Bay of Bengal. See, so this is the last point at which water can be detained for a water-thirsty state, for a water-thirsty, largely agricultural state. So all these years, this water has also gone waste. Now you are familiar with the expression I often use, dog's breakfast. So I would say this is a dog's breakfast, although I think sometimes that dogs get a bad name just because dogs are so forgiving, they eat anything. They'll even eat rukhi roti, unlike the cats. The dogs are not so choosy about what they eat, so we call anything dog's breakfast. However, we understand the metaphor. This is as much of a mess as the Indian political and governance system can make of any project. And it's a good thing now that some amends are being carried out and the project is being put back on rails. That said, I will now have Moushumi join in to explain more about the project. Moushumi, you've been following this story for quite some time. You've also visited the site, I think last year?
Last year.
February last year.
Last year.
Yeah, last year. So tell us, what exactly is the state? I mean, what exactly is it that you saw there?
When I went there in February, there was no construction work happening. As in, there was some supporting work. There were some 150 workers, which is a drop in the ocean for a project of Polavaram's magnitude, who were, clearing the river bed. So what had happened was that the diaphragm wall that was built at the dam site. So diaphragm wall is basically.
We also have a small video from Megha Engineering explaining what this diaphragm is and what's being done. And we'll also share with you a bunch of stories done by Moushumi Das Gupta in Delhi and Prasad Nichana Metla, who covers Telangana and Andhra Pradesh for us. Upstream is the part of the river that's before the dam.
Yeah.
Downstream is after the dam. So diaphragm is built under the dam, like a foundation.
Yeah. On top of the diaphragm wall, your main dam, the earth
and the purpose of the diaphragm is that water should not seep from this side to that side.
Yeah, to restrict the seepage.
One, it's a loss of water. Second, it damages the foundation
of the dam. Yeah. So the diaphragm wall of the dam was built, and in 2019, so that was built around 2017-18, and in 2019 there were flood in the Godavari river, and in that flood, the half of the diaphragm wall got washed away. So, the entire project, there was a question mark on the entire project. And one of the main reasons for that was that the diaphragm wall was built before one of the Coffer dam was completed. So, like you had said, that Coffer dam are built upstream and downstream. So, they are basically temporary dams. And the purpose of the Coffer dam is to divert the water from the dam side so that construction can take place.
So you will see a sketch on your screen, which Moushumi will explain also to you how these Coffer dams are located. Basically, if this is the river, one dam will take water in this direction. This is gently done because there are no reservoirs, the other in the other direction. And then they come and meet the river again. So river stays intact, isn't it?
Yeah. So what had happened was that because one of the Coffer dam was not complete, so again when there were floods, so water from the Coffer dam seeped into the project site, and it damaged not only the diaphragm wall, it skirted some 36 meters below the diaphragm wall, and in the process damaged it. So now there was a big question mark. After 2019, the Andhra government, the central government, because it's a national project where the center, provides 100% funding for the project. So between the central government, state government, Central Water Commission, the Polavaram project authorities, they could not decide so whether to repair the diaphragm wall or to build a new diaphragm wall, because the diaphragm wall was built at a cost of 442 crore. That's huge. And by that time, 2019, if they were to build a new diaphragm wall, it would have cost over 900 crore. So there was a cost factor involved. Also, there was a safety factor involved. So it was only sometime last year. So the government had set up a committee of experts, which had international experts, which recommended that a new diaphragm wall should be built for the purpose of safety of the entire project. So work on that diaphragm wall started last week after the center had given an advance, after the Union Finance Ministry approved an advance of 2340 crores sometime in October.
2740 crores. Sorry.
20 overall since July, after the government was formed, 2740 crore has been given, of which 400 crore is the money that the state government has spent, and it sought for reimbursement, which the center had reimbursed. And 2340 crore is the advance payment. So this is again the funding pattern that was changed by the center, primarily to ensure that the project gets completed quickly. Andhra Pradesh coffers are in bad state right now. So if Andhra government has to spend the money, again the project would get delayed, and the center was pragmatic. It understood.
So now a new diaphragm will be built.
So now new diaphragm wall is being built. Construction work has already started last week. So once the diaphragm wall is around 60% complete, then parallelly the construction on the earth-cum rockfill dam will start.
That's why it's called ECRF. When you read about these projects, you will see the abbreviation ECRF, earth-cum rockfill.
Earth-cum rockfill dam. So then the work on the main dam would start, and that would roughly take around 2.5 years. So right now the Andhra Pradesh state government authorities, the irrigation department officials are saying that anytime between July to December 2027, at this rate, if funds starts coming in, the Polavaram project would finally see completion.
Yeah. And now this issues with other states have also been settled because if you see this project, other states, because Andhra is the main riparian in this case, other states will also get some share of the water once water is stored in the reservoir. So Andhra Pradesh will get 45 TMC of that water. Karnataka will get 21, good for Karnataka. Maharashtra will get 14. Odisha will get 5, and Chhattisgarh will also get 1.5 TMC of water. Now, just to understand this diaphragm business, let me try and simplify it. And sometimes when I simplify things, I oversimplify, but I say what I can think of on the top of my head. So what's happened with this diaphragm is a bit like when you think of a human being whose tooth goes really bad. And can't be repaired anymore. So what does a dentist do? Dentist takes out the tooth and often puts in an implant. So it becomes like a new tooth. So that's the kind of thing that's going to happen to this project now, because the diaphragm that was there, built at 442, that's now broken and that's useless. So they'll first have to take it out, all of it, clean the place.
And then construct a new diaphragm.
A parallel diaphragm. And there was another problem. Because of this flooding, water came into this dam site. And scouring took place, and the water was sitting there.
So they had to remove that water also. So the project has, everything that could go wrong with a project has gone wrong with Polavaram, with so much money,
So how was the water removed?
So at that time, the irrigation department officials initially, in fact, when I had gone there in February, I saw it myself. So they had put huge gensets to take out the water through pipes, but then it was taking lot of time and also a lot of money, because electricity. So then what they did was they created water channels, and took out the water through those channels
through gravity.
So that's how they emptied the site where they're trying to empty the site where the dam is being built.
Think about the kind of damage we can do to ourselves. Right.
And also, a project which could have been completed by 2018, it's still not even 50% complete.
Yeah. So 50% work that is done, what is that work?
So of the 50% work that has been done, so in a dam project you have spillway gates to control the discharge of water downstream. So there are 38 spillway dams in the Polavaram project. All of them have been completed by 2020. Then you have two canals, the left canal and the right canal, basically to take the water to irrigate the fields for drinking water. So both the canals have been ready. The right canal, by the way, would link Polavaram to the link Godavari River to the Krishna River. So for that, the right canal, 172 kilometers of the right canal is complete, and an 11-kilometer channel which already exists is there. So that will carry the water from Godavari to Krishna River.
That's the reason I told you very early on that some bit of that interlinking has taken place. So this is not as interlinking should have taken place, which is the canal taking the water seamlessly into Krishna under gravity, because there isn't that much water coming under gravity from because there's no dam and there's no reservoir. Once there is a reservoir, water can come under more pressure. So right now, Andhra government is using pumps again, lifting pumps to lift this water into Krishna. And why are they doing it? Because the Krishna basin, again a very important agricultural basin, that is more prone to water shortages in case the monsoon is not very good. So there is Prakasham project and reservoir, barrage and reservoir downstream of it. Additional water is provided for that. But once the Polavaram dam is complete, then this water will come in, and then this will become a genuine interlinking project. And we know that Tamil Nadu has been nursing hopes also that one day water from Krishna will come into Tamil Nadu as well.
Yeah. And also now that the TDP is part of the government, so fund flow has already started. In fact, as we talk, the Andhra Pradesh government is working on a proposal for asking for a second advance for the project, which they will be sending to the Jal Shakti Ministry next week. So a proposal will also come in.
Yeah. Now think also of the kind of politics that has bedeviled the project. When Jagan's government came to power, quite a bit of work had already taken place under Chandrababu Naidu. So as Jagan came into power, he said there was corruption. He started investigating the contractor, and soon enough he fired the contractor. So the contractor in this case, Navyuga, also an entrepreneur, they were fired, they were thrown out, and then fresh bids were called. It was done with reverse bidding, and a new contractor was brought in. That was Megha Engineering. Now, Megha Engineering, where did we hear that name? So remember when all the data came out on anonymous electoral bonds, Megha Engineering was among the top 2 buyers of anonymous electoral bonds. Megha Engineering is also involved in building the Kaleshwaram hydroelectric project, which is upstream of Polavaram on the same river, on the Godavari River. And remember, Godavari is one of our greatest rivers, biggest rivers. It is the second longest, and by way of water discharge or the water it contains, it is the third largest or the fourth if you also include the Indus, but Indus only very little comes into India. But the third largest after the Brahmaputra and the Ganga. But remember, Brahmaputra and Ganga don't take all their water through India. They both go into Bangladesh. Brahmaputra also brings in water from China, from Tibet. This is a purely Indian river with a humongous discharge. It's also a river which gets really swollen up during the monsoon. So the river Godavari has about 4 months of peak flooding. That is when, if you have a decent dam and reservoir, you can store anything like 2,000 to 3,000 TMC water flows into the Bay of Bengal unused. This water can be, a part of this water can be detained. And once this full reservoir is built, all that will be detained is less than 10% of the water, even in a year of normal floods. In a year of larger floods, it will not even be 10% of the water. That's why once it's completed, it will be such a big asset. And that's why, Moushumi, you've been tracking it so closely for a couple of years now.
Yes, and I mean, let's hope that the project finally, gets completed and people of that state gets benefited, and from the other state also get benefited with the water from the Godavari.
Yeah, because it's not for no reason that Jawaharlal Nehru had called these the temples of modern India.